Hi everyone, I'm Caitlin James from Scalp MicroPigmentation Australia, and welcome to another 5-minute fast facts on Scalp MicroPigmentation Pro Artist Series, where we're interviewing some amazing scalp micropigmentation artists from around the world, getting their tips and tricks on how you can get the best out of your scalp micropigmentation transformation. In today's segment, we are chatting, we're not chatting about scalp micropigmentation, but actually scalp micropigmentation removal. And who better to chat with than a guy I go to for advice when we need some sort of removal within our own clinic for advice. He shares some of the best removal photos online about his successful laser tattoo removals for scalp micropigmentation, and is extremely knowledgeable about laser as a laser technician, and he's located in the UK. After entering the aesthetics and beauty industry back in 2002, he opened a long string of successful salons and ultimately led him to complete his laser safety officer certification training to be accredited in lasers at the highest standard there in the UK. He opened the laser studios in 2015 and followed in 2016 with training in scalp micropigmentation. He has since helped thousands of clients remove unwanted tattoos and remove or lighten bad, botched and blue scalp micropigmentation results from inexperienced scalp micropigmentation artists. Today we are talking to the Mr. SMP removal guy, Carl Barton. Welcome, Carl.
Hi Caitlin.
How are you?
Thanks for that intro.
It was very long, actually.
It was, yeah. More than I thought.
5 minutes done.
Well, I deserve, I'm sure.
So tell us about where is your clinic located, and if someone's looking to get professional removal, what action do they need to take?
So I'm in a little town called Hitchin, which is about half an hour outside London, just north of London. Very close as well to Luton Airport. I have clients fly in even from overseas for some treatments. And obviously the first point of call is the website, and get in touch usually via email, maybe even give us a call. And I would usually at that point ask clients for, after I get back to them, I ask them the photos and give them an idea of what I'm able to do over the phone. I don't like to go too in-depth on the phone. I prefer doing it face-to-face because sometimes the photos aren't all as good as I'd like them to be, and I don't want to give them false hope. Obviously, for those who are traveling from overseas or from one end of the country or the other, I prefer doing a conversation online or even a few telephone chats at that stage, because otherwise they'll be traveling to me and they may decide it's not for them. So we don't waste their time, but ideally in the face if we can, face to face.
Yeah, brilliant. And for those watching who are interested in removal, we will put Carl's information below in the links below, so check that out if you need some assistance. So please share with us different types of removal processes that you offer there at the laser studios.
Sure. Well, as with regards to SMP or in general?
Yeah, in general, permanent makeup, body art, tattooing, SMP. What do you offer there? There's
yeah. Well, we offer all three, any form of pigmentation, even skin pigmentation from sun damage. So we can remove all of that. We have various lasers. We also use saline solution removal. It's not my favourite method. I prefer lasers. They're a lot more gentle. Yeah, I have my favourite machine. You may be able to see it behind me, actually. This is for the, I use for removing pigmentation. The machine here is more for vascular veins and things like fungal nail, verrucas, and also hair removal as well. So different types of lasers for different things. But yeah, the main laser would be my go-to protocol for any form of pigmentation.
Yeah, brilliant. And what would be the most common reasons that perhaps someone that's had bad scalp micropigmentation would come to you for removal? What would be their main concerns?
Well, there are three, I suppose. It doesn't always have to be bad either. You know, I will quite often have clients who have just suddenly, decided it's not for them. Either they've had the full procedure, or maybe even after the first session, they decide actually it wasn't what they thought it was going to be. Maybe they they don't like the idea of it, maybe they don't like the look of it, whatever it may be. But I have quite a few of those, probably about probably a good 25% of clients have decided that actually it's not for them. And even though it's permanent, it's very easy to remove. So those that have decided that they don't like it, they can have it taken away. Mm-hmm. Yes, it's not the most fun time they'll have. You know, there's an element of pain that goes with laser removal, but we can limit that. We can help along the way, and we do it gradually, not trying to get it all out in one go. So that's one element. So you've got those that decide it's not for them. You've got those that have just had a really bad procedure, and those could be from, I don't know, someone who's inexperienced, or somebody decides they can do it, watch a video online. There's a lot of tattooists do that, and quite often they're using tattoo pigment, which complicates it. SMP pigments are far better, far easier to remove because they're very simple, just pure carbon pigments, whereas a lot of tattoo pigments are a combination. So it makes it harder to remove. So you've got those. You've got the ones where they've been to a clinic and they've seen maybe a student who's done a bad procedure. Sometimes they might have had 3 different procedures or 3 different sessions with 3 different people.
Yeah.
Quite often at that point, you may find that maybe the second procedure wasn't done so well. The third person tries to correct that, and then it goes on and on and on. Before you know it, their skin's saturated. So that's fairly common, actually, particularly amongst larger clinics, larger SMP clinics who have numerous staff or turnover of staff and other training. You know, they sometimes the clients aren't told either that they're being treated by a trainee. So that's fairly common as well. So from a bad procedure point of view, those are the ones that I tend to see. And then you've got those that are what I would class as practitioner errors. So maybe they've just gone a little bit too deep. Maybe a client decided that they were going to cut their hair even shorter or wear it even longer. So the pigment's too light or too dark. Maybe the client has gone back for a touch-up and they didn't really need it, but the practitioner, for one reason or another, has done that procedure. Yeah. Also, where the clients ask for it to be darker, and contrary to what the practitioner may want to do, they may try and please the client and give them a darker procedure, but in actual fact, at that point, they may have just tipped it over to be too dark.
Yeah.
But even, you know, the odd area, you know, they're under temples, is very easy for the skin to suck in the needle or suck in the pigment, so you can find darker areas around the temples. That's very common. Yeah. Or it could be just a hairline. It could be a change in hairline. You know, that could be an immediate thing, or maybe sometime down the line when they feel they've aged and they want something more appropriate. Certainly over the years, I think you were discussing this with Ollie the other day, the techniques have changed. So now the old-fashioned, I suppose you could call it old-fashioned SMP styles, are no longer in fashion. So the clients want it changed. They've seen new techniques. They've seen other people online, and they want theirs softer, more subtle, maybe a bit more receded. So lots of reasons for removal or fading. Fading's harder because you can't give a definitive percentage of fading. You know, you can't come in with a 37% fade or whatever. So there's an element of that. Sometimes clients will come in with an idea of wanting it fully removed, and actually after one session they might decide actually that the fade's enough. So there's lots of reasons for it and lots of results that we can achieve with it. It's very versatile from that point of view.
Yeah, brilliant, because there's so many elements, like you said, to someone removing it. It may not just be because it's bad, but it might just be change of mind and new styles, like you said. That's amazing. Is if someone was going to come to you that's had a bad result due to improper depth, so you're talking about, you know, certain areas of the scalp do tend to be quite thin and can absorb a lot of pigment. On average, how many sessions would you say that it would take for improper depth to be completely removed, ready to be redone?
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, depth is a problem because as we're using light to deliver energy in here, and as it goes through the layers of skin, the energy is reduced. So the deeper the pigment, the harder it is to remove. With clients that come in with deep pigment, I tend not to try. I try not to give them a number of sessions. Yeah. It's not going to be one. You know, we can remove in one, and I have done, but usually that's a very light session. Maybe even they've only had 1 or 2 sessions. Usually, for a good procedure, I'd be saying 2 sessions. For deeper, you know, you can get into 3, 4, 5, 6, and more sessions. Until we've sort of done 1 or 2 sessions, it's very difficult to determine actually how many you're going to need. Mm-hmm. We may get lucky; it may not be as deep as you think, or it may in fact be even deeper. It could even be. It could even get to the point where, as you're going through the layers of skin, ideally when we're tattooing, we want to be tattooing in the top of the second layer of skin, the dermis. So we want to be in the papillary area of the dermis. And if you go deeper into a particular area, or even deeper than that, then that's where scar tissue can be formed. Mm-hmm. And if scar tissue forms around the pigment particle, that can make it very difficult to remove. And I've come across a couple of those where, yes, we can break the particle, the pigment particles down, but the removal process is difficult because we're relying on your lymphatic drainage system to remove, to sort of erode these very small fragments that we create. Mm-hmm. And it's like a river sort of taking particles of mud from a sandbank. If you've got scar tissue formed around the pigment, then the lymphatic system doesn't pass through scar tissue, a bit like there's no vascular element in scar tissue, yeah. So it goes around it. So we can shatter it down all we like, but it stays where it is. Mm-hmm. At that point, we have other methods that we can use. So we can use microneedling, and sometimes if we get to good high powers, we can blast that pigment out of the scar tissue, but deep is a problem, yeah. It's one of the biggest problems that I come across. The nice, shallow, really good procedures where people have just changed their minds, they're lovely. I could laser those people all day long and they're easy. But yeah, unfortunately, I get to deal with the difficult ones as well.
Yeah. It's good to be challenged.
Yeah. No, I don't want a challenge.
All right. And if someone was wanting to, say, redesign a hairline, like you mentioned before, what are the client's expectations of sessions if they're looking just to, you know, fade off the front hairline, ready to have new style of SMP being created for them?
Yeah, depends very much on how good the procedure is that they've got at the moment, that they currently have, and how dense and how dark, how old it is. Mm-hmm. It would be very difficult to replace what I laser away, as in match in sort of behind. So if someone just wants a little bit of a fading or wants to correct a hairline, maybe make it slightly more receding, maybe not quite so straight, then we can take that back. Mm-hmm. If they want, and this is something I get asked quite often, if they want a section removed from the front, let's say 10 or 15 mil, and then they want a softer procedure done to create a more broken hairline, that can be really difficult because you then, whoever's doing that procedure has to then match in with what's behind it.
Yeah.
And that's tricky. Quite often I'll tell clients that they're expecting too much. So I will, and I'm pretty firm on that now. I wasn't to start with, and I try these things. Mm-hmm. But now if a client has expectations that are beyond what laser can achieve, I'll tell them, and if they don't take my advice, then I won't treat them. Yep. But, so yeah, it would depend on the procedure they've currently got.
Yeah, brilliant. And are you seeing more hair stroke procedures come through for females. So obviously we all know about feather stroke and nano brows and those methods through the brows in permanent makeup, and a lot of permanent makeup artists are trialing hair strokes, you know, within the scalp tissue. Are you seeing quite a few females coming through for removal of that?
I'm not at the moment. I've done two. But no, I'm not seeing a lot, thankfully. It doesn't seem particularly prevalent in the UK. I have seen quite a lot of procedures, particularly Eastern Bloc Europe and in the Far East. I think it's very popular there. But I'm not seeing a lot of it personally in the UK. I do permanent makeup removal as well, so I'm used to that. But no, not at the moment. I'm sure we will see it because more and more are trying it, and I know that there is at least one clinic I know of in the UK that is actually practicing that and training in it. So I'm sure I'll see some. Yeah, not too much.
Yeah. How soon after someone has received scalp micropigmentation, which unfortunately didn't go too well, could you offer them a removal session? Is there a waiting period of having their last SMP to start laser?
Yeah, I would leave it 8 weeks. I want the skin to have stabilised fully. There's a couple of reasons for this as well. One is there's going to be some fading, so there's no point lasering when the ink's at its most intense. Initially, ink that's in the epidermis, in the upper layer of skin, that will be there for 3 to 5 weeks before that's exfoliated away and then the skin's renewed in the epidermis. So we want to get rid of that. We don't want that in the skin. That's going to create, the more ink there is there, the bigger the impact in the skin. So leave it for that. Also, we want the skin to have fully healed and stabilised, really. And that way, we're not at risk of causing any unnecessary damage. A lot of clients don't want to wait that long, obviously. You know, you've had a bad procedure, you want to get rid of it.
Yeah.
But I'm firm on that. You know, it's not something that should be doing, and they've got to understand that if they want to make sure that they are removing it in the safest, most responsible way possible, there's a right and a wrong way of doing it. Rushing it now for the sake of a couple of weeks could end up with them regretting it in a few years to come. And I certainly wouldn't want my name on that. So no, there's minimum 8 weeks. And for those who aren't in a particular rush, I'll say leave it longer. You know, let it fade as much as it can before we begin the lasering session.
Yeah, and let's talk about the reverse. So say if someone has finished a successful laser removal with you and were ready to receive new scalp micropigmentation, what sort of waiting period do you recommend after the last laser to then start scalp micropigmentation?
Yeah, I do a lot of this actually. So clearly people haven't been put off by the process of having a bad SMP procedure or one that's not quite for them, and then having to go through the laser process. So yeah, 8 weeks is a minimum. I know some will try and shortcut that, and again, same reason. You know, they've been through this, they want it over and done with. They don't want to be delaying it further, but I would always say minimum 8 weeks, and if you can, leave it longer. You don't want the skin to be, you don't want any of the inflammatory response that you get naturally from either laser or from SMP. You don't want any of that still being active in the skin, and that can be active for several weeks. Usually after 8 weeks, bearing in mind that we are taking a cautious approach with the laser anyway. That will have gone, but you don't want any of that remaining in the skin because that could dilute the pigment, and they'll just be back to square one again. So the longer they can leave it, the better. They're going to get a much better outcome if they have some patience, and that is probably the hardest part of what I do, is convincing clients to have patience, because the whole lasering process is like that. We need to leave 8 weeks between sessions. If there's any sun exposure, we can't laser. and the longer we can leave it between sessions, the better it is for them. So that's something I stress very heavily, and I spend a lot of time convincing clients that a little bit of patience now will pay dividends in the final outcome.
Yeah, absolutely. And what can someone expect from a laser tattoo removal session with you? So say if someone needed to remove poor SMP, you know, from front to back past the crown, say Norwood 7, what would be sort of the worst case scenario for someone in terms of how long a session would go for?
So that sort of area, I'd usually expect actual lasering in the region of about 20 to 25 minutes. Depends what skin type we're looking at, because that would determine which wavelength I'd use. So if I was going to use the wavelength that I have that's most effective, which is the Alexandrite 755, that's got a larger spot size. So it's a 4mm spot size as opposed to a 3mm on the 1064. So that's with my equipment. So around about 20 to 25 minutes in total, and we can stop-start as we go along. I would, in virtually every case, patch test before we begin, particularly on a large area. Certainly if we're doing the whole scalp, definite patch test. Yeah. We need to leave a period of time for that, see the outcome, and decide which power setting and sometimes which wavelength would be best. Then we begin the process. I prefer not to use topical anesthetics in the event, and I have used it occasionally, where clients have had very sensitive skin. In the event that we do, then there's a whole process that's involved with that. You can't just pop it on and 5 minutes later start lasering. You've got to make sure it's going to be efficient. But in the main, I prefer not to use it. We're going to be delaying the inflammatory response, and we want that to happen. So we begin, and I'll go backwards and forwards, staying out of one area for too long, because you get a build-up of heat in that area, and move backwards and forwards and gradually work all the way back. Client then, they're going to be a little bit red, they're going to have a bit of inflammation in the scalp. That's sometimes, if they've travelled 4 or 5 hours, which is very common, may have died down by the time they get home. Some people, the redness could still be there 2 or 3 days later. So I do always advise maybe have a day or two off work after planning before a weekend, something like that. You can use cold compressors and things like that. But usually, clients will find that the redness is around them for maybe 12 to 24 hours. It'll feel a bit tight, so there'll be a bit of an inflammatory response for same sort of period of time. Then after that, it's just a question of allowing the skin to stabilise. And usually within 3 or 4 days, they sort of forget almost they've had it done. You know, some clients are back at work the next day. So that's from a treatment point of view, as simple as it is. I spend quite a bit of time beforehand doing the consultation, obviously, provide aftercare advice. There are do's and don'ts, things like no UV exposure whatsoever. That's 4 weeks either side of laser. Immediately after the 3 days, a bit like with SMP, no sweat, no wet, no extremes of exercise. You know, be careful if they're going to be washing the scalp, things like that.
Yeah, brilliant. And I think it's really important for clients to do their research and find the right removalist for them, because although someone may be qualified in laser removal, they may not be experienced in scalp removal, which I do believe is quite different to treating body art. So if you've got some questions or comments out there, make sure you do get in touch with Carl if you're looking into removal, because I really believe doing the right research in this area is key to a successful transition through the removal process. Lastly, Carl, just have you got a memorable removal story you can share with us?
Cool, you put me on the spot there. That wasn't planned. And I suppose my very first one, actually, I had my SMP training. I've been doing laser removal for some time. I did my SMP training in 2016 with Bramwell Clinic. And my very first client, actually, through the door was an SMP removal.
Wow.
He'd come in because he'd seen me advertising for SMP, asking, and he came in to ask if there's anything I could do. And I said, actually, yeah, I think I can. And it was a bit of a trial and error with him. He'd actually had 9 sessions of SMP over years, initially starting with, it took a while for it to take. So I think he had 4 or 5 sessions initially on his very first session. And then it was fading and he wanted it topped up and so on and so forth. So 9 in total. And we fully removed it in just 2 sessions. And it blew my mind, actually. And I was posting this in all the forums, and people were saying, no, that's not possible. No, that can't be done. And I was the same before. I thought the same. There's no way you can remove a tattoo in 2 sessions. Usually for a body art tattoo, you're looking at 10 to 15 sessions easily, unless it's very, very superficial. So yeah, that's probably my most memorable one, the first one I ever did. Wow. And in fact, it's still a client now. He comes in and he has some facial treatments done. He did have it done again, by the way.
Really good.
So he wasn't put off by it. So yeah, and it's perfect for that. And laser is perfect for making sure that the skin, as long as it's done properly and done responsibly and cautiously, the skin will be in excellent condition, ready to receive new SMP. And in fact, it can improve skin sometimes, dare I say that.
Yeah. Well, brilliant. Well, thank you so much, Cole, for spending a little bit of time with us today talking about removal of scalp micropigmentation. I'm sure we're going to get lots of people having a look at this video because there's a real mixed bag of results out there. So thanks so much for sharing your tips and tricks with us.
Well, hopefully I haven't waffled too much. I have to stop myself from talking when it comes to this, but thank you for asking me, Caitlin. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
No worries. And if you've got any comments or questions, we want to hear from you. So as always, don't be shy. Give us a call or an email. Pop something in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any updates as we release our latest content. Thanks for watching, and we hope to see you soon. Thanks, Carl.
Bye. Thanks. Bye.